Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today with Agnes. Hi, Agnes.
Hello, Shelly. Thanks for
Um,
inviting me.
yeah, so nice to be here with you. So I reached out to you because our intentions in what we're
Yeah.
teaching and our teachings are very aligned, and our intention and who we are teaching to is all very aligned. So I just wanted to have a conversation with you and talk about what we love talking about.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think when you emailed me, it was going to be about, a specific person, self-love. I really love that combination. I
Yeah.
think it's really important. So I went, yes, let's do it.
Yeah. Both
Yeah.
of us really have very similar views on really the most important practices to attract a specific person. And we also kind of land on a single most important practice to attract a
Yeah.
specific person. So we're going to dive into that in this little collaboration.
Great.
And yeah, we'll just dive in. So, Agnes, why for you is self-love the most important practice to attract a specific person?
Self-love is the most important, I think, because when we have a specific person that we want, there is, not for everybody, but for people that come to YouTube and look for answers, there is a need. And the neediness
Mm,
often is the problem, because the neediness is I'm trying to get love from you. And when we're in that dynamic, it might be okay temporarily because it's not, the relationship's new. But as the relationship goes on, the neediness kind of pushes that person away more and more and more. And then we get desperate, we beg, we're just in this uncomfortable state of often a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear of being left. And the self-love is the medicine.
mm-hmm.
Self-love is the medicine. That's where we work on doing our practices, doing our self-love, developing that within ourselves. That way we can go into the relationship to have something to give rather than we're trying to get from it.
Right.
Relationships work best when we give self-love to the relationship, and then the relationship flourishes rather than we're already going there like a vacuum cleaner and trying to suck love out of it, which many of our viewers have experienced doesn't work, and it causes them a lot of pain and suffering, which is very sad to see, because we don't learn about self-love, we don't learn about the importance of it, so we don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I so agree with you. And even in when it comes to everyone as you pushed out as well, if the world is reflecting back to us what we are experiencing within our own bodies, what we are feeling within, what we know about ourselves within, if that is continuously what's happening, which it is,
Mm,
then truly the only way to receive the love that you truly want from anyone,
mm,
it's going to be learning how to land in and give yourself that experience of love. Like, it's just
yeah,
absolutely foundational.
it is.
Right,
And
because
the
even if you
self-love,
attract someone in and you're not in that like I am loved space,
yeah.
it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be what you want. So self-love, or learning to feel love for yourself and give love
Mm,
to yourself, is
mm,
is like, it's just the key ingredient really to getting actually anything you want, really, in my opinion.
yeah,
It's foundation.
it is. And I think the specific person is one of your greatest teachers of all time, if you have one,
Mm-hmm.
because you really see how much of just how good are you in this area? Am I good in my self-love or not? And it's like the specific person brings out all the cracks in the armor. You get to
So
see
true.
how you're not loving yourself enough. And really, I like what you said. It's like, we talk about self-love, self-love, self-love. What is it? Really, it's going from feeling unloved to loved. That's what you're doing. In a
Yeah.
nutshell, the mechanics of it,
Yeah.
however you do it, affirmations, meditation, and we can talk more about those things later. And also really taking care of the self physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Those four levels have to be attended to, and that's daily work. It is daily work, but it does become more second nature and much easier over time.
Right. Yeah. The more you, I think one of the first obstacles for people is like figuring out what self-love actually is. You know, it's
Yeah,
such like a catchphrase, and
yeah.
it's beautiful that everyone's talking about it, but really like the how-tos of
Mm,
how do I actually do this thing called self-love? So we'll jump into that. But before, I was going to say, yeah, it's finding out how to do that. And once you get into the rhythm of a practice, I mean, it's amazing how much I know for myself when I first started practicing self-love, and it wasn't to attract a specific person. It actually was just because I had my own awakening, and it was time
mm,
for me to come to know and love myself in a new way. That was an intuitive, like natural process for me. But
mm.
when I really started practicing self-love in a huge way, everything shifted in my life.
Yeah,
Everything. The way
yeah.
life responded to me shifted. The way
Mm,
every people on the street, the way my parents responded to me, the way, just everything shifted. And so it's just
yeah.
such a testament that yes, the world, everyone, everything is us pushed out. And
Mm,
when we really feel our worth, our value, that we are inherently lovable, that
yes.
we are love itself,
Yeah.
the reflection of that from life is absolutely gorgeous. And
Mm.
so, yeah, it's a
Nicely
practice to
said.
learn.
Nicely said. But
Yeah.
you know, Shelley, the more I work with people and also in my own life, when I look back at myself and why I was struggling so badly, I can see people operate from there's not enough love, there's not enough time, there's not enough money. You
Mhm.
see that a lot. And
Mhm.
this whole thing, especially the love one, like you say, it's like when you work on the self-love practices, it's like just a big blanket that hits all three of those targets. You get to the point where you don't operate from there's not enough time, and you start to love yourself so you can allow people to love you or not. And then people love you more because you're not, constantly seeking it from them.
Yeah.
And then the money comes too, because it's all, as we hear again and again and again, it's all vibration, it's all energy, it's all vibration, it's all energy. But what does that really mean? It means what you project out, and the law of projection happens before the law of attraction actually takes over.
Mhm.
Well, and really, if you go a step back, if you read Neville, the law of assumption is the law that happens first. You assume something to be,
Yes.
I am loved or I am unloved.
Yes.
Then you project that out through your energy and your vibration. Then the law of attraction photocopies it and brings it back.
That's right.
So you go, okay, there are other laws that are working, that you're working with or against at any given time. So you're going to get an exact match to what you're really doing. That's why it's so interesting when you know people a little bit, like say people that you work with, or people, friends, or friends of friends that you just meet. You can tell what they believe even without asking them, if you know what's going on in their lives, like in terms of work or in terms of, relationships. You hear from your friend, oh, my friend's really struggling in a relationship. Well, then you go, okay, well, that person mustn't have very good beliefs about relationships.
Right.
So you know what people believe, what people
Yeah.
think, by looking at what they're actually living.
Yeah.
And that
Exactly.
becomes really interesting, because it helps you to go, okay, I'm living the same thing, so I need to adjust my beliefs about relationships. And I do think a lot of people have the belief relationships are hard. That's the first belief you got to change. Relationships are easy. They get better and better. People think, oh, as I go on in relationships, they get worse. We've got these kind of
Yeah.
unconscious beliefs that we get from the generations above us. And, I'm not judging those generations with today's eyes, but you go, okay, how can I, in this generation, start to change those things? Some of them are cultural, some of them are from your family, some of them are just from you that you've observed over time, and you've accrued them on your own. So it's fascinating to look at these levels of thoughts and beliefs and feelings that we carry, and which ones serve us and which ones need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We get a very direct um, proof of like what's going on inside of us. It's because you're going to see it out there. Like what's going
Yeah,
on inside is happening out there. That's just, it's
definitely.
direct reflection,
Yeah.
direct projection. And, part of the beauty of that as well is it really can shift fast. Like
Mm.
when we do the work,
Yes.
you can see shifts in this, like you just can see the shifts happen out there, and then that creates the momentum in the new way. But it is always going to be a practice, but it turns into a practice that you love. Like I love loving myself.
Yes.
It's not something that I feel like I have to sit down and you know create this really rigid schedule around. It actually is very
Mm.
integrated into my life at this point.
Mm.
I naturally catch myself saying loving things about myself to myself.
Yeah.
It becomes very integrated, a lifestyle. and
Mm.
um and then once the scale tips, there's a tipping point, and you're kind of you're on the side of self-love, meaning like the scale tips and you're like really in the rhythm and the momentum of self-love. Then it actually just becomes easier and easier to offer yourself that, and you receive it from the outside world, and it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so true. And it just gets so much easier when you're not chasing
All
that
right.
whole
Oh,
chasing.
the
And you
worst.
work more with allowing, which I think Esther Hicks and Abraham Hicks talks about the best.
Mm-hmm.
The art of allowing, it is an art
Mm-hmm.
because we're so geared to push and make things happen and follow up on everything. And, I'll just call that person and remind them. You don't have to do any of
That's the
that.
worst. Yes, it's the
You don't have
worst.
to do any of that. Just
Like
lean
that
back.
managing and
Yeah,
controlling,
micromanaging.
which all comes from that fear within that's saying, I'm not loved, I'm going to be left.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get it, the love, essentially.
yeah,
And when you
yeah.
realize it all is you,
It's all you.
it's all you. So the more
Yeah,
you settle in and know and trust that you are loved, love is not going anywhere,
yeah,
actually, then
yeah.
that becomes the reality. And so
Mm,
it's so empowering to
mm.
know that we have all. It's very scary when you feel like you're relying on other people to feel loved. And most people are in that space or that
Yeah,
state of mind, that
yeah,
there's like an emptiness and I have to rely on something outside of me to fill that.
yeah.
And when we realize, no, there's nothing out there that can
Mm,
fill it, it's all us,
mm.
then we have power, and then we can feel
We do.
safe.
Yeah,
We feel like
that's so
we're in
true.
control.
And then those emotions that I hear that a lot of people have, anxiety, fear, which are the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. You just go, okay, that it starts to calm down. You don't have
Right.
anxiety all the time. You're not afraid all the time. And we are afraid sometimes because we have human emotions, but you're not in that state all the time, that constant kind of revved up anxiety of when
Yeah.
are they going to call me? When are they going to contact me? Why are they not contacting me? What's wrong with me? They don't like me. And
Yeah.
you're in this constant discomfort, which is it's a suffering. It really is a suffering.
So
And
painful.
it
So
is.
painful.
It is.
Yeah, and it's natural even for people who are in this process, who are already watching our videos and are learning how to, come into self-love, how to yeah, just land into your own knowing that you are creating your reality. It is normal to still feel bouts of anxiety. And maybe this is a good segue into us talking about our own practices for
Yeah.
self-love, or what we teach people, because all you have to do when the anxiety comes up, or the fear, or you forget and you get scared, and you just have to land back into knowing, wait a minute, it's all
Mm,
about me. It's all about what I give to myself first and foremost. That's going to be reflected
mm,
back to me. And you're just constantly shifting your own reality. So why don't we jump into like, what are your
mm.
practices that you share with people around self-love?
Well, there's many. I think I think probably one of the most important now over the years, looking at all the different techniques and different things to do, I think the thing that worked personally for me the best was when I went about 8 months without turning the TV on. I'd get home from work because I had a job in those days, and I'd have a shower, put on my pajamas, and I'd lay on my bed on my back, you know, in the cross position, and I would just say, okay, out of 10, how do you feel today in terms of feeling loved? And it was in those days, it was like 3, 2, 4. They're like, I was just not feeling loved. And I thought, okay, I was feeling really overworked. I'd get home really exhausted. And then when you're exhausted, you feel really negative. And when you're negative, it's easy to feel unloved. So I thought, okay, I need to shift my unloved feeling into loved. That's what I have to do. So I'd lay on my bed and I would do the I am loved, I am loved, I am loved, I am love with no D at the end, and may divine love be made alive in me. I'd kind of rotate those 3. And I would say to myself, I'm not getting off this bed until I get to at least a 7 or an 8 out of 10. And I practiced that for about 8 months. And some nights it took me 2 hours. I would not get off that bed until I got up there. And I thought, I have got incredibly good at repetitive, habitual, I'm unloved thinking. That's what I'm good at that point. I was extremely good at it, and I was getting the external evidence to show me I was good at it. So that self-love practice, it takes some work because you have to sit and feel the unlovedness. Whereas if you're moving around doing stuff, although it's with you, you're a little bit distracted with other things. But if you sit in it, and you try and ask yourself that question, how do I really feel out of 10 right now? And you're honest with yourself about what you feel, then you go, okay, how do I go from where I am to where I'm at least up in the top sort of 3 numbers? So I worked on that for, about 8 months, and I got really good at shifting unlovedness to loved feeling. Wow. I think that very thing, if you do nothing else, that is really where the meat on the bone is, because you're permeating unlovedness. You're never going to get an SP or anybody when you're in that. Even someone new. There's a lot of people don't have a specific person, but they want a relationship. You cannot be in unlovedness and attract love.
No.
I mean, how many times in your life you've had moments where you feel great, everything you touch works. So it tells you that how you feel is what gets everything moving. So you go, okay, that's where the real nugget is.
Right.
And I think over the years, all those techniques to try and get someone to love you, at this stage of my evolution, I wouldn't do any of those techniques again. And some of them are on my channel, because in those days, 5 years ago when I started YouTubing, I would have said do certain techniques to imagine that person loving you or giving to you and all that stuff. Now I would say I'm pretty hardcore on this now, because I've, you know, from every angle, worked it in my own life. And I do think that is at the very, very base foundation of self-love practices. And I would include meditations, self-love meditations, and self-love affirmations in that. When you get off the bed, those would be my top 3 of all time. You have to learn to control your mind.
Yes.
And you have to learn to change your emotions through controlling your mind.
Yes.
So doing the I'm loved, I'm loved, I'm loved, I'm loved, and brainwashing yourself into a different state, as Neville talks about states, you have to stop walking around feeling unloved and unwanted if you're going to have someone love you. You must give that to yourself. You can't be lazy and expect someone to do it for you, as in a specific person, an ex, or a brand new relationship. It's your job. They didn't cause this in you, and they can't cure it. It's up to you. So,
So beautiful. I love hearing about your path. I mean, that's devotion. You were
Yeah.
serious. You were like, I will be on this bed for hours if that's what
Yeah,
it
I was
takes.
sick of it, Shell. I was so sick of it. I thought, how many relationships am I going to do this? How many times?
Yeah.
Like, how come I'm getting the same ending again and again and again where someone leaves me for somebody else? I was angry at life. I was
I
angry
bet.
at,
Yes.
maybe I'm just one of those people that just can't have relationships. I don't know how to stay in a first best love state. I don't know how to
Mhm.
do it.
Mhm.
So, you know, and through those relationships, I was reading, you know, Florence Shinn, because she was my first book about 30 something years ago. And
Mhm.
then Neville was my second book, The Law and the Promise.
Mm.
I was reading these books and I was applying what I could, but I kept defaulting back to, I'm unloved, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, I'm
Right.
second best. They were my top three, you see.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I had to crack those for my own self.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I just thought, you know, until I cracked that, I thought I'm in no position to teach anybody anything.
Yeah,
Just
and
can't.
cracking it becomes the teaching. When you crack, by cracking it, you're like, oh, okay, here's something people
Whew.
gotta know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really important that I'm feeling was probably part of your process. It was really part of my process too. And I haven't spoken too much about this, but I think it's important to talk about for anyone wanting to attract anyone into your life, specific person, new person, ex, anything. If you are in, and let me know if this was similar for you, Agnes, if you're in a position where you are kind of so much focus on the other person, give yourself a good chunk of time that it
Mm,
is about you and only about you. Like where you are
yeah.
like, okay, because I did this for myself too.
Yeah.
After a really hard breakup many years ago, after my awakening, I was like, okay, it's time. It's actually time for Shelly
Yeah.
to become a new person
Yeah.
so that I can shift my life, so I can
Yeah.
shift my relationships. So
Yeah.
that meant really taking a break from having
Mm,
any type of relational contact
yeah.
and it being about
Mm,
me with me. And this
yeah.
is so unusual for us, you know, meaning
Mm,
like in our culture and even in our world, I imagine that to I don't know, just to make that sacred, special time where
mm,
you are your number one priority.
yeah.
And I say, like, if you can, I mean, it's going to be a different amount of time for everyone, but like
Yeah.
taking a month or something like that,
Mm,
where this is your time to learn to really be with yourself,
mm,
care for yourself, love yourself, be only with yourself, be alone, and feel how actually amazing that is. Because once you are
yeah.
practicing self love in the right way, it feels good to be
Mm,
alone.
it
You
does.
enjoy that time with yourself, you enjoy
Mm,
showering yourself with that love or feeling it,
mm,
meditating. So, it's something I maybe should talk about a little bit more. Just it's like
mm,
a simple component, but just taking a break from
yeah.
the outer focus and just being like, you know what, I'm
Mm,
ready. This is going to be my time. And
yeah.
I'm going to learn how to really be with myself, really cherish myself,
Mm,
really love myself. And you will know when you will know when you have really
yeah.
accomplished something there. And when you're ready
You
to start
will.
interacting with people and they're just
Yeah.
gonna, they'll flock in.
Yeah.
That's what's happened to me. It's like
Yeah.
when I go into that self-love space and I am just, that is my main devotion, main commitment. When I'm ready to start interacting with the outer world or opening up to, if I was dating at that time, oh, they just fly in, people just like
Mm,
flock in. That's
yeah.
how
Yeah.
it works.
Because you're
So
just content within your own skin.
yeah, right. And well, the
Yeah.
world is reflecting us back to ourselves. That's everyone
Yeah.
pushed out. The
Yeah.
world is reflecting. If you are really living in, I think I am phenomenal. I think
Mm,
I'm beautiful. I think
yeah.
I'm worthy. I think I'm special. I think I'm all of these things. If you really are living in that reality, other people are going to tell you the same thing all day long.
So true. And then you don't even need to hear it. You go, okay, thanks. But you know what, Shelly?
What?
Looking back,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. You need at least a month.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump out and say 6 months. And I know people aren't going to like that, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think a good 6 months on your own without engaging in preoccupation with another person and to really sit in your own, just that uncomfortability, the God, am I going to be alone forever? And reminding yourself that being single isn't a disease. It's actually a really wonderful thing.
Yes.
And then when you've spent that time on your own, you can get rid of a lot of the old childhood abandonment. You can work through, I mean, Dr. Hugh Len does that wonderful inner child meditation. Brandon Bays talks about going through the emotional journey. You drop through the layers and you get rid of a lot of the stuff, because it's like all this stuff of neediness, abandonment, anxiety, fear, it's all stuck in your body. It's trapped in your body. Your body's just like a big suitcase and you're stuck in it. So if you can go and do these meditations and actually grieve, let the hurt out, the anger, the pain, the heartbreak, you blow it off.
Yeah.
Your vessel becomes lighter. Your suitcase becomes
Very
easier
true.
to carry. And then when you step into a relationship, you're in a much better space. Because I see a lot of emails come through where people are still married to somebody and they are, they've kind of separated, but they're still living together and they've already started another relationship. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the madness of that. You haven't even taken a breath and exhaled between the last one. Why are you in such a rush? Because there is often a fear of being alone. Now, if you're going into a relationship because you've got a fear of being alone, you're using that person so that you don't feel your aloneness. And there's a big difference between being lonely and alone. Being alone, you can do what you want when you want. You can just do it for as long as you want, and you can do things at the last minute. You don't have to tell anybody what you're doing or where you're going or who you don't have to do any of that. Whereas when you're in a relationship, you need to start to communicate those things. So there's so many great things about being alone. And I do think that I do see when I'm working with people that there's not enough time spent in that period that you're talking about, whether it's 1 month to 6 months. Like you say, it's different times for different people. And we're not saying it has to be 1 month or 6, but there needs to be a period of time alone.
Yeah. And probably a good barometer to know if you're ready, if you've like done enough work there, is you're not like antsy to get out of it.
Yes.
Right? If you're like kind of cool there, if you don't need to like rush into something, then your time is getting close to being
your
up.
time's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're not going, okay, it's been 2 months, I got to get out of here now.
Right, exactly. It tells you that like the work has happened, because that is actually what that's one of the most beautiful things that happens from self-love is you're okay. You're okay.
You're just satisfied.
You're satisfied.
Mm.
You are all you need.
Yeah.
You're really all you need. And that doesn't mean that you don't ever want a relationship again in your life. But it's just like you're satisfied with yourself. Like you said, you're okay. There's okay. And you also are not scared about whether or not a relationship is going to come in, because you just know that you're worth it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so true. Yeah. And I think when you take that into a relationship, whether it's an ex or SP or a new relationship, taking your satisfaction into I'm satisfied, I'm actually really okay, and you let everybody off the hook from you have to love me. Wow, that is one of the greatest gifts you can give the people around you, whether it's family, friends, or that sexual romantic relationship. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always the, if it's a gift for them and a gift for anyone. And it's the exact thing that's going to really make them want you. It's going to
Yes.
make them attracted to you. So it's kind of this win-win in like a selfless way. It is a gift to everyone. You're letting people off the hook. You're not making them in charge of your emotional well-being and your sense of confidence and wholeness. So that's a gift. And guess what? The bonus is they're going to be really into you.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works, you know?
That's true.
It's
So
just
attractive.
it's
Someone
so
that's
attractive.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so attractive. I mean, I've had experience after experience after experience that has just shown me that this is true. That when
Mm.
I really deeply am landed in my own worth and knowing that I am an incredible, beautiful, worthy, gorgeous human being,
Yeah.
it's just, that's what
Yeah.
we receive back. And so it's
Mm.
so worth it. It is so worth it to make
Mm.
self-love really kind of a top priority in your practice,
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
practices.
And it's even more attractive than a nice ass.
Yeah, seriously, it is. It makes your ass look nice. It doesn't even matter what your ass looks like. It looks good if you love yourself.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. It really is not about the physical shape.
True. It's actually true. And actually, this
No.
is actually kind of a cute little, this is something I have taught in my courses, and a component, there's a lot of different branches of self-love. And one of the branches is body love.
Yeah.
And it's, so, I can contribute this in as one of my self-love practices for sure. It's practicing, you'll see, like touching my body,
Yeah.
thanking my body, like really recognizing the beauty of my body,
Yeah.
not for the way that it even physically looks. I mean, we can do that as well, but also just recognizing like, wow, you can even just start with, I'm looking at my leg right now as I do it and touching my leg, like, but wow, this
Yeah.
body is giving me so much.
Yes.
So learning to drop into and feel physical gratitude for your physical body and
Yes.
moving it into, and this body is beautiful.
Yes.
This body is special. This body, and again, if your belief system shifts around how you feel about your own physical body, about how you feel about any part of you,
Yeah.
you're going to receive that shift from the outside world. So it's just
Mm.
important, like love your body and start where you can start, but
Yeah.
recognize like we all have these gorgeous bodies that are offering us a lot, right? We get to
Mm.
live and move around the world in these bodies and learning to really appreciate your
Mm.
physical body. And you will, I mean, again, the result, like the results will speak for themselves because other people will start seeing you, noticing you physically. I mean, you're just going to receive the reflection back. So,
Absolutely true. And it's I do think especially with women, there's I don't like my thighs, I don't like my stomach, I don't like
mm,
my arms, I don't like my, whatever. You always
mhm,
got something that, and I think we as women need to stop that criticism
mhm,
in terms of when we look at ourselves in the mirror, or I'm too old, or I've got wrinkles, and then we spend so much time and effort with the shell,
mhm,
doing hair, doing makeup, getting
yeah,
Botox, whatever people do. And
mhm,
there's nothing wrong with any of those things in small doses. But I think if you could spend 20% of your time on that stuff and
mhm,
80% on the self-love, all your external coding will become more attractive anyway,
it's
because
true.
you're putting love, it's radiating out from you. You look younger when your self-love's active. You look 10 years older when you're really negative and worried and full of anxiety. It shows on your
Yes,
face.
yes, yes, this is
So
so true. And,
yeah.
for myself, it's interesting because it's like doing things for the right reason. Sometimes people want to do this to either shift their body or do this to attract the guy. But when you really start doing self-love truly for the purpose of self-love, if you like, so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, well, for myself, my own process, when I started really doing self-love for the first time, so this is probably in 2012, my body naturally shifted into more radiant, more beautiful than it had been for many, many years. I wasn't intentionally trying to make that happen. I just was starting to become love more. I was starting to love myself more, feel more love, and my body naturally shifted. And so, I guess what I was trying to say is that if you do self-love truly for self-love, and that is really the reason, these other benefits will come. You know, your body can naturally shift. You can naturally attract anyone you want if these foundational principles are really, really instilled. So we don't need to focus even so much on that outer thing if you're just focusing on your inner self concept. And, you know, actually Neville, I believe, said that. I can't remember which book, but it's like your self concept, what you think and feel and believe about yourself, is the thing that is creating your reality. This is like number one. And so, yeah, it's just good for us to remember that.
It is. I think, I mean, I find in my personal life these days, I really, I don't know, less and less, not I don't care about personal beauty. Yeah, actually, I probably would say I don't care about it. Just not, you know, do what you have to do in terms of taking care of the body. But as in, we are born, we look the way we look. That comes from our families, our cultures. That's how we look. So to put so much emphasis on that, for me, I'm not really that interested. I'm more interested in, let me really work on, you know, my health, you know, I'm working on the computer a lot. I've got neck pain and shoulder pain. Let me work on doing yoga to correct that. Or, you know, or I've eaten, you know, some stuff that's not great for me. Let me work on juicing for the next month to really clear out my body so that it's in a better, my digestion's better, or whatever. So it's more those kind of things, because I think we do, as women, I will say this again, put so much emphasis on the physical beauty, and that's because we want to be attractive to men.
Right.
Or if you're in a gay relationship, you know, or you're bisexual, you want to be attractive to your own kind. But I just think if you're leading with that foot, you're always going to see flaws and imperfections in yourself, and you're never going to feel good enough.
Yeah.
And then there you go again, back into, you're on the back foot again. So I find just taking, you know, I think it's good to groom and to take care of the external shell, but I think too much focus on all these things. And I see, when I was looking up YouTube, the top 3 subjects, I think about 6 months ago, was music. Music was number 1. How-tos, you know, how to something. And then makeup was number 3.
Right.
And I thought, oh, you know, for me, I think I just go, that says a lot about where we're at. And I don't want to be watching those YouTubes. I don't watch them at all. They're of no interest to me. But I know a lot of people are interested, and there's nothing wrong with that in moderation. I just think that the self-love is way more important personally than the makeup.
Right. I think what you're speaking to, which feels really right, is like we need to be honest with ourselves about why we're doing what we're doing. And are we doing something so that we can try to get something outside of us to fill us?
Yes.
Or are we doing something because it's genuinely the truth of who and what we want to be? And we already know that we are whole. We already know that we are love. And we're not trying to be filled from the outside. And it's just important to remember. I mean, we do remember after many rounds of trying to get something outside of you to make you feel better, and it doesn't work. Like eventually, you don't forget.
You don't forget. You don't forget.
Or even if you do, like for a minute, you go back in. You're like, wait a minute, no, the answer's only here. The answer's
exactly.
And when we know that, when we're operating from fullness and from our own self-love, then you can do whatever you want, because again, it's all you. It's you pushed out. You don't need to you don't need to impress anyone.
No.
You just actually need to impress yourself. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And You know, I mean, going back to makeup, you know, some people are amazingly creative with makeup for stage
Right,
and
it's
all
like
that
an
stuff. And I'm
art.
not talking about that. It's an amazing art and it's so visually beautiful when you're doing it for those purposes. And I mean, if you know, you're getting married, you're going out for some amazing event, you're going to put you know, some on, and it's going to make you feel, you know, just you already feel good. You're going to use that as a way to feel that 10% better. And I think in those
Yeah.
cases, no problem at all. It's such a wonderful thing to express your beauty.
Yeah.
But when you're leaning on it for it to
Yes.
be the beauty, that there's a fine line between that. And like you said, there are other things you can use, and you can go and try and use those things to feel better. And over time, you kind of eliminate, and you get back to kind of your natural, pure, just the simplicity of who you really are,
Right.
without any too much packaging, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you still want to put your clothes on though before you walk down the street.
Yeah, you just come home to knowing that you're enough, and that's it. And we all
Yeah.
are. And really, that's going to be the position that we create all these things that we think we want. I mean, I'm sure you hear this over and over again with your client success stories. I know I hear it too. It's like you think it's going to be about this specific person.
Yeah.
The journey's about
Yeah.
whatever, the body or whatever, the money. It's actually about you. So
Mm.
it all, and people discover that. Oh, it's
They
actually about
do.
me.
Yeah.
And that's when actually the big changes happen, when you really
Yeah.
land in, this isn't about anyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. It's a very humbling experience, really.
Mm-hmm.
You get humbled many times with
Mm-hmm.
this thing that you're talking about. You just like, you go, oh my God, it's about me.
It's
You
about
know, like
me.
I hear a lot, Shelley, people when I'm working with them, one sentence comes up again and again. You know, they're so stubborn. He's so stubborn. She's so
Oh.
stubborn. And I think as soon as I hear that, I go, ding, 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 ding. You're trying to get from him. You're trying to get from her.
Mm-hmm.
No, people aren't stubborn for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing
Mm-hmm.
that's causing that in your external world? Because he's you pushed out. What are you pushing for? What are you trying to get? What are you needing? What are you thinking he owes you, or she owes you, or they should be? What is it? So when I hear that now,
Right.
it kind of, I immediately get the red light warning sign. I go, okay, let me listen to what's really going on.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, if you're saying that, you know, to the viewers that are listening, if you're saying that about anybody, you know, what are you doing that person is doing that to you? Like with people blocking you, I hear this a lot. I was blocked on WhatsApp. I was blocked on Instagram. They've removed me from this or whatever. People don't block you for no reason. So you got to go, what have I been doing that happened?
Mm-hmm.
Did I push too hard, too fast, for too much?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't trying to do it for myself. I was trying to get someone else to do it for me. And it's okay. We all start
We
there.
all
We've
do,
all done it.
exactly. Yeah.
Shelley and I have done it too.
Yes,
You
a
know,
lot.
yeah, hello. Yeah, that's why we know it, because we've done it like a million times before, you know. And you just go, okay, that didn't work, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and orienting to it spiritually. I mean, that's the egoic self. That's the separate self that feels incomplete, that
Yeah,
feels like it's not good enough, that feels like something out there is going to be the thing to complete me. And
yeah,
anytime you are in that frame of mind, it's okay, it's natural. Again, it's what everyone does, but that is the egoic self. And you're never operating from that state, is never, ever, ever, it's just going to lead to more of the same. And so
mm,
that's why stillness, going within, taking your own time, landing back in the internal
mm,
state of, and this is the eternal, right? This is the eternal, this is the infinite self. Everything that I could ever possibly need or want is right here. I
yeah,
am God. I am
yeah,
wholeness. I am
yeah,
love in the deepest way,
yeah,
not as a concept, in deep within.
yeah,
And when that becomes your home base, when you can get back to that experience of wholeness within yourself, which is love, when you
mm,
can get back there again and again, and you start living from that space, wholeness, of love, of perfection, of I'm wonderful exactly as I am, that's the only space you really are going to create the life and relationship that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said, Shelley. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was so wonderful. Any last
Yeah.
thoughts or anything else you want to share before we?
Well, I think because it's the beginning of the year, it's 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I know people do want answers and they want relief, and totally understandable. I think if you're someone who really wants relief and you really want to have just love within,
Mm.
and you're really ready to stop chasing love,
Mm-hmm.
if you can make, there's a million techniques. I think if you can stick to 2 or 3 and you do them well, and you get them to the point where you're extremely good at them. I mean, my thing of laying on the bed was my way of doing it, but I'm sure there are other ways. Work out a way for you that you can go from feeling unloved to loved. Be consistent at practicing that. Really work on your thoughts, going from panicked anxiety thoughts of how am I going to get thoughts. Start to train your mind to start making statements of I am love, I am wanted, I'm deserving, I'm worthy, I'm important, I matter, I'm secure, and I am good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Work on those, do them 50 to 100 times a day. Sounds like a lot, it only takes about an hour. You can do it in 2 30-minute blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Make that the priority. Then you've got to get some stillness, as you mentioned. You've got to learn to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about your mind jumping around. My mind still jumps around 30 years after meditating.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. You just do the best meditation that you
Mm-hmm.
can.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, you know what, doesn't matter if it wasn't great today, I'll be doing it again tomorrow. It doesn't matter. So let go of my mind jumps around, I can't do it. Just ride through it. Let it jump around. Sit, just sit, sit, sit.
Yeah.
Try and connect with stillness. Feel what you're feeling and acknowledge it to yourself. And then say, I'm going to sit here. Try and do 15 minutes, build it up to 30. And I think if you can get to, over time, slowly, sit about an hour a day, that helps you develop stillness. The more still you are, the less you're chasing from a dissatisfied place.
That's beautiful.
So that is I think the best practices that I find, not only to, you just become more okay in your own life and in your own skin and in your own mind, because there's so much torment up here for so many. So you've got to work on, I think, those things to calm the self, to get to a place of peace. Once you get to that place, then you're in a position where you can attract somebody, because you are no longer needing or chasing love. And that's an ongoing thing you do till you feel like you don't want to do it anymore, till the day you die. So you go, okay, these I think are the most important things. And there's so many bright, shiny objects on YouTube and on law of attraction sites. Do this, do that, do that, do that. But for me, in my relationship with myself first, and my relationship with my partner, and not only attracting him, but maintaining it, because you get to a point where you realize attracting a specific person isn't that hard. It's keeping and maintaining it that takes the work. So, and to do that, you need to continue your self-love within the relationship. Those 3 things I mentioned, you still got to practice them, because it's not their job. All of a sudden you get your eyes on them. Oh, I don't have to do this anymore. And then you drop the ball again, and you go back to, they're my source of love. And then a year later you've broken up again. So it's maintaining, must maintain. Yeah. It's the turtle wins the race. You must be the turtle. Slow, steady, slow, steady, slow, steady. And you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not something to be intimidated by. It's not it doesn't feel like you're like have to do all this work all the time, because again, there is a tipping point where it just becomes your nature to be loving to yourself.
Yes.
It really
Yes.
becomes your default position. And
Mm.
so when it's your default position, then it's green light, and you're just going to maybe at times going to have to like readjust and come back into your self-love. But when
Yeah.
that's the predominant state, which it can
Mm.
be with enough practice,
You can,
it
definitely.
does take devotion and commitment, as you're saying though in the beginning. It really does.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. Why wouldn't
It's
we
so
do
worth
that?
it.
Why wouldn't we do it? Yay. Oh, well, I'm so happy we got to do this. It's
Me
just,
too.
yeah, it's a pleasure.
Good conversation. Just a
Mhm.
good conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pleasure to be doing similar work in the world.
Mm. Yeah.
To be connecting around that. It's
Thank
an
you for
honor.
asking me, Shelley. It was lovely. And may we do these, again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you for being with us. Bye-bye.